Well, hi guys, welcome. And who dat? I'm Joe. Thanks for tuning in to Rosenfield 10, where I cover our beloved, bless you boys, in black and gold, the New Orleans Saints. Are you a Who Dat fan? If you're a Who Dat fan, subscribe to this channel. I love the Saints as much as you do, and I'll be talking about them all year long. And right now we're focusing on the draft. I've done several videos covering the first 2 days of the draft. And now we're going to look at some deeper cuts going into day three. What can the Saints be expecting? What can we look for? What could we target in rounds 4 through 7? Day three of the draft, we're going to get two fourth round picks, two fifth round picks, and a sixth round pick. That's where we're at right now. Not certain what that second fourth round pick will be. It's a comp pick that we have not been allocated officially yet. But it'll be worse than the fourth round pick we get from Seattle. And Seattle's in the Super Bowl. And I wanted a team to lose so badly because it affects two of our draft picks, a fourth rounder and a fifth rounder, depending on how Seattle finishes. Well, they're in the Super Bowl. So it's either going to be pick 131 or 132. And that's just bleh. We could have had, if they could have been eliminated earlier in the playoffs, it would be more like, 127, 128, a little bit better. Yeah, but that first fourth round pick of ours won't be coming until literally the butt end of the fourth round. And then the comp pick comes after that. So when we talk about day three prospects, a lot of the guys I'm going to show, and I'm going to show you a list of almost 100 players, but a lot of the top end ones are going to be gone in the first 30 something picks of the fourth round, unless the Saints make some move, either trading back in the first 2 days to acquire extra picks or packaging picks to move up, which we don't like the Saints to do. It might be worth it in this instance to get a high fourth round pick because, yeah, man, not getting a pick on day three until pick 132 is kind of nuts. But once you finally get there, you get two in a row, and then your fifth round picks shortly after that. The second fifth round pick is going to be determined by Seattle once again, so it'll be bottom of the barrel fifth rounder. But hey, we got an extra fourth and we got an extra fifth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the list by positions because it's such a massive list. I don't want to cover the whole screen up, and we're going to go position by position. All right, so first we're going to pull up the running backs. We're not going to look at quarterbacks. The Saints aren't interested in a quarterback. If we get a quarterback, wow, we'll talk about them then, but I'm not breaking down quarterbacks. First, we're going to look at running backs. I think I've got 8 of them here. The top three we mentioned in round three. Running back Nick Singleton and running back Katron Allen, both out of Penn State. It's possible they'll go in the third round. It's also possible that they are leading the running back room heading into day three in round four. Like I said, we have two very late fourth round picks. So the chances of Singleton or Katron Allen being there, slim. That's why I mentioned them in the third round, because if you're going to get running back, you might, if you want your pick of the litter, you might have to go that route in the third round with a guy like Jadarian Price or Jonah Coleman or Emmett Johnson. I doubt if any of those guys fall into the fourth round. There's a chance Singleton and Allen do, but a even slimmer chance we'll have a chance to draft them unless we move up. I also mentioned Seth McGowan here out of Kentucky. Mentioned him in the third round, but because of the off-field stuff, I expect him to go in day three, but he does have a lot of ability. The rest of the running backs I have here, Damon Claiborne out of Wake Forest. He's kind of a average to small size guy. I don't think his game is complete as far as pass protection. So he's got some moves and he's fast enough. So people like Claiborne. Mike Washington Jr. out of Arkansas. He's a big dude, like 6 foot plus and well over 200 pounds. But Washington fumbled a lot this past year, so I kind of worry about that. Le'Veon Moss out of Texas A&M. He's a decent player. I kind of comp him as the day two solid all around guy, kind of like a Devin Neal type, except maybe you know faster, definitely faster than Neal, but maybe Neal's got better vision overall. But Moss can be productive in the passing game for you. I like Moss as a 6th round pick. Kalen Kalon Black and Roman Hemby, both out of Indiana, the national champions. Hemby's 6 foot, about 208 pounds, and Black is 5'10", but he's 210 pounds. So a couple of really tough running backs here. Haleon Black is making a name for himself at the Senior Bowl right now, the practices. Mike Washington's looking good at the Senior Bowl too. Hadn't had a chance to fumble yet, I guess. But Black's probably the one getting a lot of the buzz at the Senior Bowl right now. And yeah, there's a chance he moves up in the 4th round after this week. Those are the running backs. And yeah, if you don't get a guy in the 3rd round, then you're hoping Singleton or Allen falls to you on day 3. But there's not a lot of hope for that to happen, that they'll actually fall to the bottom of the 4th round. So I think if you wait until day 3 to get a running back, you'll get a piece. And I think our room's pretty good. If Kamara's got 1 or 2 more years in him, if we keep Kendre Miller and he stays healthy, but I kind of like just forget about Miller altogether. You got Kamara, you got Devin Neal. I love Audric Estime. I really hope we keep him. And I think with a healthy Kamara, that's a decent room as it is. You add another piece like this and on day 3 and you got yourself a nice little room, some youth behind Kamara, and you just hope Kamara can give you another good year. But if you take a running back and, Love in round 1 or, Price or Johnson or whoever, Coleman in round 3, then you've got yourself your eventual Kamara replacement. But expecting one of these guys to replace Kamara, yeah, it's probably not going to happen. But I think running back by committee is the way to go if you don't score big in the 1st round or in the 3rd round. All right, let's pull up the wide receivers on day 3. I have Malachi Fields and Ted Hurst at the top of this list. I mentioned Malachi Fields on day 3, or round 3. Fields is a good player. I really liked him, and he was expected to go day 3. He's making some noise at the Senior Bowl practices right now. It's like everybody's just realizing who he is. So Fields may practice his way into round 3. I like Fields a lot, though. I always liked him. He's big, 6'4". He's got some thickness, and he's a really good run blocker. Notre Dame, of course he is. Nobody ever really starts off with that. They say Fields is a big guy. You kind of wonder what he's got as far as moves and separation skills and stuff like that. But you trust him as a big body with contested catches and stuff like that. I lead off with he's a good run blocker. Okay. And he can do all that stuff that big receivers do, but he's a good run blocker. So I kind of like the idea of grabbing Fields. If you don't get a big bodied wide receiver early in the draft, he would be a nice complement to Olave. So, but there's a chance he won't be here. Ted Hurst out of Georgia State is another one who's doing really well at the Senior Bowl practices. So Ted Hurst might be one of those guys that's played himself into day two, but he would be top priority wide receiver at the beginning of round four. And once again, the caveat that the Saints don't have their fourth round pick till the butt end of the fourth round. You get two of them, but they're at the end of the fourth round. So you might just not get a chance at Fields or Hurst. But they are my favorite ones here. Some other guys to look at. Deion Burks out of Oklahoma, really small but quick, separator, yards after catch, special teams ability. CJ Daniels, formerly of LSU, now at Miami. He's a good, solid, all around guy, 6'1" kind of guy. I don't think he's a starter in the league, but he's a piece in your room. I kind of liken him to Jalen Polk. We'll see what we have with Polk. Maybe we already have a CJ Daniels on the team. Bryce Lance out of North Dakota State. He's a big dude, tall. He's really good. I like him. He certainly should be there in day three, unless people are enamored with the size and the potential. Coming out of a small school, I expect him to be there in round four. Will he last to the bottom of round four? I don't know. But he's got the size I'm looking for. Eric Rivers out of Georgia Tech is a small guy, 180 pounds, which is like bottom percentile in the league, So, uh, yeah, I'm not a fan of Rivers. He's a solid receiver, but we're talking like six rounder here for me. Eric McAllister is another guy who has a ton of potential out of TCU. I worry about guys who don't put it all together in college. I mean, McAllister's got good size and good speed. 6'1", 6'2", something like that. Good speed. So more potential there with McAllister. Josh Cameron out of Baylor. I've always liked him. He's only 6'1", which is a good size. 6'1" is good. But he's like 220 pounds, so he is thick, big, and he plays big and tough. Good run blocker and solid all around guy at wide receiver and can do a lot of stuff in the middle of the field for you. Plays way bigger than that 6'1" height. So I like Cameron a lot. He's showing out at the Senior Bowl practices this week right now, so his stock may rise as well. I was thinking at some point you may get him in the sixth round, but he may have played himself into round three or round four. So there's a chance Cameron's still there at the bottom of the fourth round. Harrison Wallace III out of Ole Miss is a solid all-around player. Average size, 6'1". And yeah, I like him. It kind of reminds me of CJ Daniels. Just a guy. Could make your team. Can provide depth. I don't think he'll break into the starting lineup anytime soon. Malachi Fields and Ted Hurst are the guys on this list with Josh Cameron that I think have a chance to actually, become a number three, number four kind of guy. I end the list with Chase Roberts out of BYU because I do love his size. And yeah, I think he's clutch in certain situations. There's a lot of wide receivers that I haven't listed here. I mean, this presenting 100 players to you is kind of scratching the surface for what's left on the boards. I mean, you've got LSU's entire wide receiving core. I don't know if Nick Anderson's still coming into the draft or not, but Hilton is, and Thomas is, and Aaron Anderson. So there's a lot of guys here I haven't mentioned. Kevin Coleman out of Missouri, really small, but he's making waves at the Senior Bowl practices right now. Ton of wide receivers that you can choose from. I'm showing you 10 here. Let's go to tight end. Tight end's one of those where I think in the third round they're going to start coming off the board. So Max Clare, Eli Stowers, Jack Indries, Michael Trigg, those guys will all be gone. Justin Joly will probably be gone, as well as Joe Royer out of Cincinnati. Really hope Justin Joly is a guy that falls into the fourth round, but I doubt it. Joe Royer out of Cincinnati, another one that I would hope would be there in the fourth round. Kind of hope Jack Injuries out of Texas might still be there in the fourth round. Tough to tell, but I'm going to show you the bottom of the barrel and starting off with Oscar Delp out of Georgia, who I really love as an all-around guy because I like his run blocking technique. He's like 245, so he's not the biggest dude in the world. Eli Raridan out of Notre Dame is a guy I have a lot of faith in that's going to develop into an all-around guy. He's just an average size right now, though. Dalen Bentley out of Utah, I like him a lot. Nice NFL size, over 250 pounds. And I think Bentley's going to be picking up. The heat's going to come on him here real soon. Bentley had 600 yards and 6 touchdowns this past year, so it's not like he doesn't have production. And with that size, I just think it's one of those things you kind of want to go for the guy with size that can do it all. That's what I want for this team. A guy like Bentley who can provide some run blocking too. Tanner Koziol out of Houston is 6'7", 6'8", but he's pretty thin for that height. I don't know how good of a run blocker he can be, but he's great as a receiver. When you're 6'7", there's a place for you in the red zone. So Koziol is a guy a lot of people like. Marlon Klein out of Michigan, I like a lot. Doesn't have a lot of production in college, always played backup, but he's got good NFL size, and I think he's going to be a good run blocker. And with the size, he can develop as a pass catcher. Without all of the tight ends on our team, Jack Stoll was our run blocker. He's a free agent. Morrow was a run blocker that we asked to run block. He's a free agent. So we could use all kinds of tight ends. Daquan Wright out of Ole Miss. He's really good NFL size, and yeah, he's slow, but he can produce for you in the run game and in the passing game. So I've got my eye on Wright as a day three guy. John Michael Gillenberg, Gillenberg out of Wyoming. People love him. They love the potential. They see what he's doing at the practices right now. He's got decent NFL size. He has absolutely no production. 1 touchdown this past year, 200 yards receiving. Wyoming doesn't throw the ball around to tight ends, I guess. But that's one of those guys where you take a chance in the seventh round, in my opinion. We don't have a seventh round pick, but yeah, if I was going to take a chance on somebody, I'd I'd go with Sam Roush out of Stanford, 260 plus pounds, really good run blocker, and you can see him making plays in the passing game. I think Roush is a guy that I would target on day three out of all these guys as someone who I believe can be an all-around tight end and actually be productive in the league. Between Sam Roush and Dalen Bentley, I think those are two guys that I'd like on day three. And of course, I love Delp. I have faith in Raritan. Cozy Oil would be a great receiver. All right, let's pull up the offensive tackles. I've got a few tackles listed here. And because we only need depth at tackle, there's a chance some of the tackles we target will be asked to play guard. Austin Barber out of Florida is really hot and cold at the Senior Bowl practices right now. People are talking about Barber moving in to guard. There's a chance Brian Parker the second out of Duke is still here. And even though he would be listed as a tackle right now at the Senior Bowl practices, he's been playing center and looking pretty good. So if Brian Parker falls into day three because they don't expect him to play tackle in the league, he's showing people at the Senior Bowl he can play center. So Jude Bowery out of Boston College. I like him a lot. I have him circled as a day three tackle to target. And he is a tackle. He's a tackle size and he'll play tackle. And I like him. Cage Casey out of Boise State is another guy. Tackle size plays tackle. Boise State, that's Kellen Moore's alma mater. So really the only Boise State guy in the whole draft to target for poor Kellen. But Cage Casey's got some ability. It wouldn't surprise me if we targeted him on day three. Drew Shelton out of Penn State is a guy that's always had that round four type of ability. J.C. Davis out of Illinois is a guy that a lot of people want to move to guard, but he's a solid size. Emil Wagner out of Notre Dame, great height and length for a tackle, but he's right under 300 pounds, so he needs to gain some weight before anybody would feel 100%. But at the Senior Bowl, or it might have been East West Shrine game. I get some of the players and the practices mixed up, but we had practices for both those events right now, and last week and this week. So Wagner looked good wherever he was at, and people like that size. They think they can add some weight to him, and he'll be a good player. Tristan Lee is out of Clemson, a tackle with good size. He was inconsistent this year, which means you can probably get him at the bottom of day three. Trey Zun the third out of Texas A&M. I think he's been practicing all across the offensive line at the practices. Right now, I think he played left tackle at Texas A&M, and he's really good against the pass. A lot of these tackles need work in the run game. So there's your tackles that I'm going to mention here on day three. Some of them can kick in the guard. Some of them, like Bowery, should stay a tackle and be good. Wagner, same thing, probably stay a tackle and be good. Let's pull up some interior offensive linemen. This will be the biggest list I show because everyone knows we need depth at guard as well as starting guards. We're hoping to fulfill that need in free agency. A couple of starting guards would be nice. If you don't get that met in free agency, you may have to draft a guard early in this draft. But, it's you go ahead and get yourself some depth. That's why I'm mentioning all of these players here. Backup center, in my opinion, is a major need for this team as well. So that's another reason I have so many listed here. DJ Campbell out of Texas, inconsistent as all get up, but he's built to play guard in the league, so we'll give him a chance in the later rounds. Jaden Roberts out of Alabama. Nobody on that offensive line was consistent this year. I think Roberts might have some flexibility, tackle and guard type. Armaj Reed Adams out of Texas A&M. Good player. I think he played right guard. Solid player. All of Texas A&M's offensive linemen are pretty much fourth. They three guys. You might see Basanis drafted in round three, and other than that, they're all solid players across their line, but they're all featured here in day three. Sam Heck out of Kansas State. Hi, Sam. Sam looked at me when I said Sam Heck. Sam Heck out of Kansas State is looking really good at the Senior Bowl practices or Shrine Bowl, whatever. I'll just say practices. Heck's kind of small, though. He's only 300 pounds. So it's nice to see him performing well at the practices against good competition. Logan Taylor out of Boston College is looking really good. Pretty sure he was a tackle at Boston College, but they're highlighting him all across the offensive line in the practices right now. He's holding up pretty good. He's 6'7", I think, which would make him an incredibly tall center. But they're trying everything at these practices. Sheridan Wilson out of Texas Tech is a center, and he's a solid player. He'd be a good six-round pick. Bo Stevens out of Iowa. You expect everyone out of Iowa to translate and be decent offensive linemen in the league, even if they're not 100%, even if they struggle at times. Bo Stevens is struggling right now in the practices, but there's some versatility there and possibly some training from Iowa. People love offensive linemen from Iowa. I'm not high on Stevens all that much. Matt Gulbin out of Michigan State is another guy that's just okay for me. Inez Cooper out of Miami, believe he plays guard. He's a solid player. I really like Kobe Baines out of Kansas. Some of these mock simulators have him, as an undrafted guy. And all of these day three players can fall. Some of them can get drafted in day two, but a lot of them won't get drafted at all. So I'm mentioning a ton of them. Charles Jagusa out of Notre Dame is huge, a big dude. And if we want strength on the offensive line, I think he would be a guy. If that's what Kellen Moore wants, it seems like that's what he liked when he had so much success in Dallas and Philadelphia. Big boys up front. Chris Adams out of Memphis is not big. There was a time on one of these simulators where Adams was getting day two buzz, but he's not on this site, and he's pretty small. I think he's 280 something, pretty small. But he's a technician. I mean, for him to get buzz on one of these sites, somebody to keep an eye out on. Jager Burton out of Kentucky. He's looking all right at the practices. Bryce Foster out of Kansas is a center, and Braylon Moore out of LSU, a center. I like Moore's ability. I think Moore, bad back again. I think Moore is a good me, not Moore. I think Moore's a solid player. Like I say, I like the centers in this class. It wouldn't surprise me if we got one. It wouldn't upset me. I think if we don't re-sign Luke Fortner, we're going to need a starting center for half the year. I'm just not sold on McCoy being healthy all the time. All right, that's the offensive players. Yeah, I showed you just about 50 guys there. Now we're going to jump into the defense. And starting with defensive tackle. Guys like Dominique Orange and Dante Corleone will probably get picked in round three, even though I kind of liken them as a round four types. Ahmad Moten Sr. out of Miami is another guy that could be there in the fourth round. Daryl Jackson Jr. out of Florida State is another guy I mentioned in the third round that could be there at the beginning of the fourth round. Tim Keenan III out of Alabama is another defensive tackle that could be there in the fourth round. So a lot of these guys could be drafted in day two because teams have that need and they're going to reach. But I don't really grade these guys out that I just mentioned until day four. I mean, round four. Oh, we have those two late round four guys. So I didn't write those names I just mentioned because we're probably not going to be in play for them. The bottom of the barrel, fourth round into day three for us would include Zane Durant out of Penn State. He's an all around guy that could bring something for you at defensive end, but just a solid player, not a standout guy. Skylar Gill Howard out of Texas Tech. I like him a lot of energy. Texas Tech had a great front this year. Hunter and Gil Howard were really good in the middle. Gil Howard is, that smaller guy, 290, 300 type, three tech type. So we would be asking him to play defensive end. And yeah, I kind of like Gil Howard. Xavion Harris out of Ole Miss, a big dude. Doesn't really flash all that much, but solid guy, and you could probably put him all around, all across the defensive line. Grayson Holton out of Oklahoma. There's just a lot of stuff that says he's not going to make it. I think he's like 290, but he has a motor. And guys with a motor, I get excited about, especially in day three. If you can pick them up late, you get a guy that has a motor, and next thing you know, he's a rotational piece for you, and you get a lot of effort when he's out there. So I'm kind of hoping Grayson Holton is a surprise because I have him circled as an effort guy. One of those guys that, you know, the build, he's not supposed to make it, but I got him circled. Let's see what happens with him. DeMonte Capehart has always been a solid guy at Clemson. Always going to be a day three guy too. Doesn't jump out at you. Not sure what he's going to bring you as far as the physicality, and you just hope the effort's there. Chris McClellan out of Missouri. I like him. He's a solid size, can play all along the defensive line. I think he gives you a little bit of everything. Albert Regis, Texas A&M, really good run stopper. Albert Regis would be a nice fit for this team. Rayshawn Benny out of Michigan, nice size, right over 300 pounds. Play him all along the line. I think he can give you a little bit in pass, but solid run stopper for sure. Cole Brevard out of Texas. Man, I thought he went back to school, and then I just realized that he had just dropped so far on the list. Yeah, I scrolled all the way down into the 400s, making sure that these lists weren't, you know, screwing certain players over with where I thought they should be. As long as Brevard's still in this draft, he's a nice size, and we've got Texas coaches. So if Brevard has something to offer, yeah, we could target him in day three. And the last DT I'll talk about, Nick Barrett out of South Carolina. He was just okay in college this year, solid player, good against the run and doesn't show you a lot versus the pass. But at the Senior Bowl practices, he's been showing a lot. Pardon me, the practices. He's been showing a lot. The one-on-ones, he's showing some pass rush moves and stuff. And so, you know, you kind of hope he could, you know, kick it up to the next level and be a solid guy. So for your defensive tackles, yeah, I'm kind of liking Holton as a guy that could be a rotational piece, but somebody that could come in and really have an effect would probably be Skylar Gill Howard, Albert Regis, and McClellan out of Missouri. I think those guys might could get into a good rotation. And Rayshawn Benny, I really like too. All right, let's pull up some edge rushers. As far as the third round goes, yeah, you kind of hope denied Dennis Sutton falls into the fourth round. He would be a nice pick at edge on the defensive end. And Derek Moore out of Michigan would be a great piece to get as a stand-up guy. But we're picking at the bottom of the fourth round, so I doubt we'll have a chance at those guys. I'm mentioning Malachi Lawrence out of Central Florida once again. Not likely he'll be here. Chances are, if he's at the beginning of the fourth round, he'll get taken right at the beginning of the fourth round. We won't have a chance at him at the bottom of the fourth round. Another guy on this list that could go in the third round is Nadami Tucker out of Western Michigan. He's getting some buzz right now at the practices and steadily rising up the boards. Tucker's a 250-pound guy, would make a good pass rush outside presence for the Saints, as would Malachi Lawrence. But there's a chance both Lawrence and Tucker are gone by the time we pick at the bottom of the fourth round. But if either one of them are there, that might be your pick. I'm looking at everybody else on this list, and offense and defense. You get to the bottom of the fourth round and you still have one of those top running backs like Singleton or Katron Allen. Yeah, you go ahead and grab them. Malachi Lawrence and the Dominic Tucker might be too good to pass up the bottom of the fourth round. Guys that certainly will be there, we may have a chance to draft bottom of the fourth round, at edge rusher. Anthony Lucas is going to be a defensive end. He's a big dude, too, like 285. Solid defensive end size, but doesn't have a lot of production. Seems hot and cold to me on his tape. Mikhail Kamara, I really like, even though he's 6'1", 260 pounds. I really like him as a effort player on the edge, stand up guy on the edge for us. If Kamara's there at the bottom of the fourth round, be a nice edge rusher to get. Might make it there to us. Not Tucker and not Lawrence making it to us, but Kamara could. Same type. Trey Moore out of Texas, same type. Smaller guy. It's going to be an edge rusher on passing downs. Tyreek Sapp out of Florida is going to be a big defensive end for you and play with his hand in the dirt. Vincent Anthony Jr. out of Duke, 7 sacks this past year. He's a really good outside presence. He's tall, 6'6", I think, but 250 pounds. He's going to be a stand-up edge. And yeah, he's got some moves. I like Anthony Jr. a lot. And I round out this list with Caden Curry out of Ohio State. He's hot and cold to me. There's a chance he gets taken early in the fourth round. But I'm not really a fan of Curry. So as far as the edge rushers here go, I'm leaning towards Malachi Lawrence and Adami Tucker, of course, if they're still there. But if not, Vincent Anthony and Mikhail Kamara and Trey Moore would be guys I'm looking at to rush the passer. Lucas and Sapp, if you want a defensive end. Coffee. I hope you guys are staying warm. It's been cold this week for practically everybody in America, so stay warm. I got my snow cap on here in southern Louisiana. Let's pull up linebackers. And the top 3 on this list are guys I mentioned for the third round. Harold Perkins out of LSU, Jacob Rodriguez out of Texas Tech, Jay-Sean Barham out of Michigan. I mention Rodriguez every round. I think he's got first round talent. He definitely won't go to at least the second round. Chances are not till the third round. In these simulators, he doesn't go to the fourth round. And still, once again, everybody likes him. Still haven't heard one bad thing about Rodriguez. Not one thing. Heisman Trophy finalist, 7 forced fumbles, 4 interceptions, 130 total tackles, can cover, can rush the passer, can play the run. Heat-seeking missile to the ball. But yet here I am mentioning him again in the fourth round. For whatever reason, Jacob Rodriguez falls to our fourth round pick, we're drafting him. Okay. Harold Perkins, of course, he doesn't have a place, so a lot of people will pass on him because he's an experiment that I think would be successful in our defense. So I'm going to mention Perkins again. I doubt he falls into the bottom of the fourth round. That's what sucks about this day 3 list. We have 2 bottom of the barrel fourth rounders. The top end guys may all be gone. But if Jay-Sean Barham is still there, he'd be great to get because he can play multiple roles, play linebacker and rush the passer on passing downs as an edge presence. Guys that we may actually have a chance to get. Taurine York out of Texas A&M. He's such a good player. He's small. He's Sam Mills small, like 5'11", 225. But man, he's good. And he's good versus the pass. And he's a good tackler, and he's a good all-around linebacker. If because of his size he falls to the bottom of the fourth round, lucky Saints, we could take a look at York. Aiden Fisher out of Indiana is a solid player. He's still a day 3 projection, but he's a really good player. Kyle Lewis out of Pitt is showing some stuff at the Senior Bowl right now, and he's always been a really good really liked player. I think he's only 6'1" to like 235. So he's a little on the small side too, but Lewis has a lot of production in college out of Pitt. He's a really good player. Linebacker is one of those positions where I think we're good. The depth is good on the team. If we lose Demario Davis, it's going to be wild because we've had an all-pro middle linebacker for the last 8 years. And even before Davis, we went years and years and years with great middle linebackers. We've always had really good middle linebackers. So it would be a difference if we didn't have a stud in the middle of the linebacking core there. It would be something we haven't experienced in a while. And I don't think you get a stud, aka Stutzman, in a round four that's going to come in and make you forget about Demario Davis. People want Stutzman to be the starter. They like Stutzman. They want to see what he's got. And I agree. If Davis moves on or retires, we're going to need a middle linebacker. Pete Werner might be that guy. And Stutzman comes in and takes Werner's place. And then you have Werner and Stutzman out there all the time. Then you bring in Stallbird on third down to take Stutzman's place. That could be a situation. And I think you're going to be missing Demario Davis if that's the situation. Now, you want to get rid of Pete Werner altogether and start Stutzman? Okay. Then, yeah, you're going to need somebody next to him. Jalen Ford, unless you think Stallbird can handle all three downs. I think Stutzman being your starting middle linebacker, you will feel the departure of Davis. Then again, Stutzman could be the next Demario Davis. We'll see. But if Davis is gone, to make a long story short, if Davis is gone, you're not going to be replacing him with any of these guys without losing something. So there's that. So I hope Davis makes up his mind before the draft because yeah, we could go with Anthony Hill in the second round and be happy and just move on, right? So yeah, we'll see what happens. The rest of the linebackers, Landon Barton out of Utah has always been a solid player his whole career. Jack Kelly out of BYU is making some waves at the practices. Red Murdoch out of Buffalo is an underrated guy, really good, even though he's got, iffy size. He's good everywhere, good against the pass, and he's got a great name, Red Murdoch. All right, come on, out of Buffalo, show us you can do something in the NFL. The last linebacker I'll mention, Caleb Elarms Orr out of TCU. I can't even find this guy on NFL Draft Buzz, which sucks because Elarms Orr is showing out at the practices, and I think they timed him at 20 miles an hour, fastest linebacker at these practices right now. So he's got some speed. And the fact that I can't find him on some of the sites, there's a chance he'll still be there. All right, let's go to cornerback. Wow, man. If we could luck out and get some of these guys, third round guys, to fall, Devin Moore out of Florida, Malik Muhammad out of Texas, Chandler Rivers on the small side out of Duke. Any of those guys fall into the fourth round, we'll be looking at them. But we're picking bottom of the fourth round. So even these headliners here may not be there. Dalen Everett out of Georgia. Traden Duke, Traden Stukes out of Arizona. I have him circled. I like him. I like his size, and I think he'll fit in our defense well. So I'm hoping Stukes is there at the bottom of the fourth round, a guy I would target. Damani Jackson's too inconsistent. Dalen Everett, I like. Some people really like him. I like him. Fourth round, yeah, I'll take him in the fourth round. Takario Davis, a huge dude. I think he's 6'4". Interesting piece. Big. Hezekiah Masses out of California. He had 5 interceptions this year. Ton of pass breakups. He's only 180 pounds, but he's 6'1". So he needs to bulk up a little. Had a lot of pass breakups. I think those 5 interceptions was among the league leaders in college this past year. So gotta love a ball hawk. You just worry about his weight. So not sure if he'll be a good tackler. But he's a ball hawk, so I like that. I have him circled for that reason. Devon Marshall out of North Carolina State. I'm hot and cold on him, but he's showing stuff at the practices right now. Jermaine Matthews Jr. is really small out of Ohio State. I love wide receivers and DBs out of Ohio State, so even though Matthews is small, I could see him getting drafted late in day three and actually making a team. And the last cornerback I'll mention, Charles Demings out of Stephen F. Austin. I always liked Demings. I think he's at the practices right now and looking pretty good. Being from a small school, kind of have a feeling he'll be there on day three. Interesting guy for us to focus on. Yeah, Traden Stukes is the guy for me on day three at cornerback. Great size. I think he fits into what we're going to do. All right, and the last category, safety. I'm going to mention Xavier Scott again out of Illinois. He may not get drafted in round three because of his size. Jalen Kilgore out of South Carolina is another guy I expect to go in the third round. He would be an excellent pick in the fourth round for us. Genesis Smith out of Arizona as well. Genesis Smith has great size. I just wish he could tackle better. But Jalen Kilgore, I've always liked out of South Carolina. If he's still there in the fourth round, especially bottom of the fourth round, yeah, I don't think that's possible. He would make a good nickelback for us. He's played safety and nickel, so Kilgore out of South Carolina would be a huge get. But probably not at the bottom of the fourth round. Xavier Scott's still there. I guess he's got a lot of ability. I don't like the size. Another guy with iffy size is Bud Clark out of TCU. His weight, his height's good. But he's a really good player. I like Bud Clark. I've always liked him. Drafted him in a Saints mock a few months back. And he's showing out at the practices right now. So he's probably going to get some buzz. Michael Taff. Is that how you pronounce his name? Tafey? Out of Texas. Dude has all around solid numbers. Solid in man, solid in zone. Really good tackler. Good against the run. I don't know. We've got those Texas coaches. This seems like a utility guy. This seems like a guy that we could draft. I think we're going to put an emphasis on tackling. So I think Taff is a guy that is a good tackler and can play man and zone. So that's an interesting one right there. Lewis Moore out of Indiana, national champion. So he's going to get some buzz. Bishop Fitzgerald out of USC. I don't know a lot about him. Deshaun Singleton out of Nebraska. Cole Wisniewski out of Texas Tech. Wisniewski is showing some stuff at the practices right now. He's not the ideal size, but one of those effort guys. VJ Payne out of Kansas State fluctuates on these boards, but he ranks highly on some of the boards, so he'd be a day three target. Xavier Nwakpa, Iowa. Yeah, could have came out last year. Would have been a day three pick too. There's nothing about his game that excites me. The last safety I'll mention, Jacoby Thomas out of Miami. I really like Thomas. I think he's active. I think he's a good size and can play everywhere. He needs to get better at tackling. Well, there you go, guys. That is almost 100 players that we could focus on day three. Rounds 4 through 7, two late fourth rounders, two fifth rounders, and a sixth rounder. A good sixth rounder. So lots of moves the Saints can make, lots of pieces we could get. Whatever we don't address in free agency, day three is one of those areas where at that point in the draft, you're hoping to get a guy who turns out to be a steal. You're hoping to draft a guy that everyone overlooked and he ends up being a starter. But chances are you have to be a little more strategic than that. You're looking for depth. You're looking for, you know, uh, maybe a young guy that you're going to try to get to progress. So adequate depth for sure is what you're hoping on day three. And then you get toward the bottom of it and you're either going for traitsy guys and you're hoping they break through, or you can be smart about it and focus on special teams and really good depth because you can't have a draft of 7, 8 picks that are all starters because 4 years from now you're going to be paying all of them top dollar and you're going to lose more than half of them to free agency anyway. It's just the way the salary cap is. So you have to be strategic. You have to, at some point, draft a guy who you know ain't going to be your starter, but he has a place on the team, whether that is a fullback, H-back type, whether that's punter, whether that's a special teams ace that's going to return for you, or whether that's a run blocking tight end, or maybe a receiving tight end. You know, you can go and get a piece that you don't want to grab early. A piece that, no, he's not going to be my starter, but we need this. We need a run blocking tight end. So you go and get him in the later rounds. And then chances are you get to re-sign them after their rookie contract to a cheap deal, and he still plays his part. That's what day three is all about, finding bit players, part players. You hope you find studs, but be smart about it, fill some depth, and maybe you hit a home run with a couple of them. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is the last video I'm going to do about all of these long lists of players to show you. Now we've covered rounds 1, 2, and 3, and now we've covered day 3. I have literally shown you hundreds of players. I promised I would, and we've done it. Let me know in the comments who you like on day 3. And coming up next week, I'll probably do a video about different draft strategies that the Saints could take. It's an interesting subject for me. You can't get everything you want. You know, my number one guy right now is Jeremiah Love. But you get Jeremiah Love, and then you're scrambling for defensive linemen, wide receivers, edge rushers, cornerbacks. There's lots of ways to go about it. You can address certain positions at certain times and then try to find something good later on at certain positions. So we'll talk about that next week. Subscribe to Rosenfield 10 for more videos about the draft. Saints focused. I'm Joe. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Who dat?